This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FY Investment Group and your host of Washington Current Review, where we interview leading voices from business, from politics that impact you, the viewer. Today we are fortunate to have a friend who works for the Woodrow Wilson Center. He's in charge of South Asia Center at Woodrow Wilson Center, where I serve on the cabinet. His name is Michael Kugelman. Michael, good to see you, my friend. How have you been?
Very well, thanks. Good to see you.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself and what do you do with Woodrow Wilson Center?
So I manage the South Asia work.
Which includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
Exactly. And I'm also the Deputy Director for our broader Asia program at the Wilson Center.
It's very nice. So why is the South Asia so significant to America, and especially, do they play a major role in the world scene, in the world political scene?
South Asia is a critical region that I think that Washington tends to forget about. If you look at the geography of South Asia, it's essentially the gateway to the Middle East and to East Asia, two critical regions of the world. What else is in South Asia? Well, there's Afghanistan, where the United States has been fighting a war for nearly
17 years.
17 years. It's also, of course, where India is, which is a critical strategic partner for the United States.
Oh, well, with the two they are the largest democracy. With the oldest democracy, there's the barrel that binds us together.
Exactly. And then you've got Pakistan as well.
Pakistan, which is a difficult challenge for the United States as well as to Pakistan to work together.
Exactly. So you got a lot of different types of challenges in the region, that's for sure, when it comes to South Asia.
So tell us a little bit about, you sort of alluded to the fact that United States have been fighting, in Afghanistan for 17 years. Do you think we can get out of there? What's our game plan?
I think part of the problem is there is no game plan. I think that the U.S. government, and not just the current administration, but previous ones, haven't really known why they're still fighting in Afghanistan. The original goal, let's remember, was to eliminate the al-Qaeda sanctuaries.
That has been accomplished?
That has been accomplished.
Yeah. What about the peace they're trying to accomplish between Pakistan as well as in Afghanistan?
Yeah, that's the objective for the Trump administration, is to try to get the Taliban, which is leading this war, to stop fighting. The problem is the Taliban has been doing so well on the battlefield, it really has no incentive to step off and negotiate an end to the war.
I want to shift the gears, Michael, a little bit about the U.S.-India relationship under this administration, where we are, where we're going. As President Obama said, that the relationship between India and the United States is a defining moment. Is it still being defined?
I think so. I think there's been a lot of progress. There's a lot of momentum in this relationship, particularly on the defense and security side. But I think the economic side is where there's been a lag. And what I like to say is that the defense partnership is the sweet spot of the relationship, and the economic side is the Achilles heel. So there's still a lot of work to do.
When you say economy, you're talking about the trade, investment, commerce. Is that what you're talking about? But our trade relationship with India, with the United States, has increased significantly.
It has, absolutely. But given that the importance that the United States invests in this partnership, I think there's a concern that here in Washington that it really could stand to strengthen a bit more on the economic side, particularly over the last year with this Trump administration in power.
What's your thoughts on the trade and tariff?
I think that the administration's policies have been very problematic.
Counterproductive?
Very counterproductive, particularly in the context of India, because some of these tariffs, you talk about manufacturing tariffs, steel tariffs, they really could have a very direct impact on India. And you don't want what you describe as a critical partner in Asia to be affected negatively in that way through these tariff policies.
What about the fact that the United States putting a lot of pressure to India not to buy oil from Iran, which have been a supplier for many, many years? So why are they doing something like that? It's going to affect India, because India has been a recipient of this oil for a long, long time.
Yeah, I would argue that this issue with India's oil imports from Iran and how the U.S. doesn't want them to do that, it's one of the sore points in the U.S.-India relationship right now. The Trump administration takes a very singularly negative view toward Iran, and it doesn't want countries doing business with Iran, even key partners like India. And as you suggest, Iran is a key energy partner for India. It's unrealistic.
So is Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely, absolutely. But of course, the U.S. government wants to deepen their relationship with Saudi Arabia. It's a different case.
So sound like they like the autocratic government.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I think what's clear about the Trump administration is that it recognizes that its relationship with India is important, and I think that even Trump administration realizes that it would be unrealistic to expect India to reduce or to eliminate all of its oil imports from Iran.
That's just seems to me that's a wrong approach to pressure India not to buy oil from Iran. And where do they get the oil?
Yeah, I mean, India has a pretty large supply of energy suppliers. It gets oil and gas from a variety of places. But again, Iran is one of its top, or has been one of its top suppliers over the last few years. So it would be very difficult for it to compensate for such a large loss.
You and I alluded to the fact about a minute ago, the challenge that the Pakistan and United States has, and Pakistan and India has. Shed some light on that. Where we are, where we're going. Do you see a brighter horizon under this government? Especially the Prime Minister, especially the relationship between India and Pakistan, as well as between the U.S. and Pakistan?
I'm not very optimistic.
You're not very optimistic. Obviously, there was a meeting, there was a schedule in New York that got canceled.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
between India and Pakistan.
Yes, the new Prime Minister of Pakistan is a big name, Imran Khan. He's a former cricket star, and
he brings the star power.
Yes, exactly, and he's got a lot of cricket friends in India. I mean, he knows these guys, and so
he does.
He came to power a few weeks ago, speaking in a very conciliatory fashion about India. However, as you suggested, I think the baggage and the mistrust in the relationship got the better of him, so to speak, and I think that relationship has really been set back. And for one reason being, Imran Khan is very close to the military in Pakistan, which is a very powerful actor and is very mistrusted by the Indians. So it's going to be difficult.
Well, but the fact of the matter, Imran Khan is a fresh power. He's a fresh face, and he's well known in India. He's a cricket player. So he doesn't have that kind of thing that the baggage that the Nawaz Sharif had, or Bhutto family had, or Pervez Musharraf has. And he would like to extend his hand and his heart, I would hope, and his, to India to work together. And it is in India's interest to work to make sure that Pakistan is secure, safe, and stable.
That's what you would think, and that's what you would hope. And I think that Imran Khan is genuinely interested in making the relationship with India.
So the military is putting a pressure on him?
And also, and you have to look at the India side as well. I'm not sure India is ready. India has an election, as you know, coming up early next year.
And they always bash Pakistan in order for them to get the vote.
And it doesn't play well politically for the Indian Prime Minister to extend a hand to Pakistan during campaign season.
But it was a Prime Minister Bajpayee, who just passed away not too long ago, who belonged to the same party of the BJP, who crossed the border from India to Pakistan to make sure they have a good relationship. I want to talk a little bit about China. China is making a major play, especially in South China Sea. What do you think they're trying to do? And what should we do as an American?
Well, I mean, I think China it's very simple. It's trying to deepen its global footprint. It's trying to expand its influence.
They're doing the same thing in Africa?
Africa, Latin America, you name it, they're there. And I think that this is concerning for the United States.
So why are we not doing anything about it? Why are we fighting with China against the trade? And we have a large trade deficit right now.
Yeah, I mean, the Trump administration has taken a very critical position toward China, and it's telling that the Trump administration came out with a national security strategy last December. It describes strategic rivalry as the biggest national security threat facing the United States. The U.S. considers China to be its biggest strategic rival. So that suggests that the United States views China as a very clear threat.
But China has already risen. China is not rising.
Exactly.
China has risen. China has the power. It's better for the United States, it seems to me, unless you disagree with me, to work together.
Absolutely, in an ideal world.
Yeah.
But I think that we're looking at a different type of administration now here in Washington than we've had previously. It simply doesn't seem interested in trying to find common ground with China, even though absolutely it's always
you can stand on your ground, but you can't find a common ground. And especially what's going on with the tariffs, we're going to be paying for this thing right now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's all going to come back to, or it could come back to
The
haunt us.
customer, yeah, it will come back to haunt us. I'm not really sure what are you getting out of it. Look at what's happening in the stock market. It sank pretty much yesterday.
Yeah, I just don't see this policy, this confrontational policy that the Trump administration is taking toward China as a very reasonable one to take. But again, you know, this is an administration that has very singularly critical and even hostile positions towards certain countries, and I think China is one of them.
Are we losing a global leadership that we had under the previous administrations? Are we isolated, pretty much?
I don't know if we're
in the world scene, in the world politics, in the world game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're isolated, but we're getting there. And you look at the type of responses coming from even our former partners, NATO partners, defense treaty partners in Asia.
And also NAFTA?
Absolutely. Exactly. Well, I mean, there's been...
Where are we going? We basically have been a beacon of democracy and hope and aspiration for many, many generations, for many, many years. This is who we are. This is our values. This is our character, our conscience.
Exactly. And I think that there's been a revolution in world affairs since the Trump administration came into power. And it's been a very interesting revolution in which everything that we took to be true in world affairs for the last few decades has been thrown out the window. You know, key alliances, partners, it's all come into question. And that certainly will have consequences far beyond whenever the Trump administration ends.
When that ends, do you think we can repair the damage? Is it a path of destruction and divisiveness?
I mean, I think it certainly is repairable.
It will take a long time to repair.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that one could argue that in certain levels, particularly in terms of key partnerships with allies in Europe and Asia, the damage is done, and it will take a long time. But nothing is irreversible when it comes to international affairs.
We have we have only about 3 minutes to go, Michael. I want to talk to you a little bit about how do you see the relationship between the United States and South Asia? Where are we going? What do we need to do to make sure we can repair the damage, to make sure we are the global leaders, we are militarily, economically powerful country. We need to be a beacon of hope for democracy around the world.
I think that, you know, when it comes to South Asia, it's a bit simpler. I mean, the United States needs to try to work out its disagreements with India. India is a critical partner. Given that, you know, we were talking about China, the U.S. and India very much see eye to eye on China. They both worry about its rising influence. You're right, it's already risen, but its influence continues to increase. The U.S. needs to get that relationship
They need
with
to
India
contain
right.
China.
I don't know if I like the word contain, but perhaps push back is a more diplomatic term. Because China, you can't really contain China. It's too powerful for that. You know, it's building this huge Belt and Road initiative across the world, this huge connectivity infrastructure project. And that's going places. So you can't really contain China. But there's ways of trying to come up with other types of policies to compete with China and make it a bit more difficult for China to be the only, you know, the sole economic heavyweight, so to speak.
What about the China and Pakistan corridor that's happening right now? Do you think India has to worry about that? Or India could be part of that?
I mean, if the political relations between India and Pakistan, India and China were better, India may want to be a part of it, but I think that India is just very worried. India always worries that China is trying to encircle India by, you know, engaging in these investments and infrastructure projects around South Asia, right in India's backyard. And I think that for India, this China-Pakistan economic corridor essentially cements this notion of India being encircled. This is India's perspective.
Is that your perspective as well?
No, I don't think so. I mean, certainly China is very present in India's backyard, but whether it's seriously trying to encircle India, I think that sort of takes things a bit far.
Well, Pakistan didn't have too many choices. The relationship with India is not going anywhere. The relationship with the United States is a very difficult trajectory and a path. It's not moving forward, so their choices are limited. So the China is probably the place that they need to go to.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, Pakistan needs friends. I mean, its relationship with the U.S. is very much on the rocks.
With India is on the rocks.
Yeah, as it always is. So I think it looks to countries like China, but it's also trying to increase its relations with other players, Russia, Turkey, none of which get along with the United States.
Russia and Turkey, and also the Gulf countries.
Exactly, particularly the Saudis, which has been a long-standing relationship.
Well, thank you very much Mike for coming. I thoroughly enjoyed talking with you. This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week, and thank you for watching.